Hello and welcome to Design Chat, the best live discussion on the internet. I'm your host, Ryan McGovern. On Twitter, I'm at Hoopajube and at DesignChat. You can find out more info about our show at designchat.info. So every week we get together, twice this week because of the holiday, to talk to some of the coolest people in design. Tonight we have with us Mr. Justin Ahrens, founder and principal of Rule 29. Golf clap. Thank you for coming on Design Chat, Justin Ahrens.
Oh, you bet. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So what we're going to do here, we've got, if anybody hasn't been here before, we're going to do an hour-long session here. We'll do about 45 minutes of chat. And during that chat, we encourage you guys to ask questions and chat amongst yourselves there. And what we do is during the chat, we harvest those questions. For the last 15 minutes, we'll serve those questions back up to Justin and give you credit, of course. And so that way you guys get to actually participate and ask questions of Justin. So so we'll get into that. So Justin.
Yes, sir.
Local Chicago guy. You've got Rule 29 founded in, I'm going to get that wrong again, 2000.
Yep.
Was it 2000? Yep. See? Locking it in. Check it out.
Love
it. Right, you founded that in Elgin. So your first big office was in Elgin. And was that in 2000?
Yeah, well, actually, I co-founded it with a buddy of mine back in 2000, and sometime in the year 2000, I can't remember when it was, we moved into our first office in Elgin, and that's kind of where it all started.
Awesome. And so where were you at that point in your life where you made that decision to say, I'm not only do I want to do design for myself, but I want it under this one house, and I want to move in this direction?
Well, I started actually my career in Arizona,
okay.
And I was there for a couple of years, and I started another firm, and actually I became a partner in that firm, a junior partner in that firm, and I was really excited about it. Make a long story short, two of my partners didn't like each other very much, and so it was time for me to figure out what we're doing. My wife wanted to move back home. We're from this area. So I took a job actually at Tyndall House Publishers and became their art director.
Okay.
And during that time, I connected with a college buddy of mine who was on his own doing some stuff. We worked together, and we got to the point where I either had to stop working at one of the places to make it work, and so
right.
it just made sense to go off on my own again. I loved working for myself. And working in a small setting where you had a little bit more control, and the book business was fun, but it was a little limiting in the sense that we designed books, and then other firms would go and promote them, and do all the other things that have to go along with getting books into the store and getting them sold, blah blah blah. And I wanted to do more.
So at the time, what was your sort of credo or design statement at that time? Like what about design at that point in your life was important to you?
I'd done enough work to realize that we had an opportunity as designers to really make an impact, and I wanted to start a firm that not only could we control the kind of work that we did, but also we realized that we're blessed with this ability to see things differently as creatives, and we also have this great responsibility. Sounds like a Spider-Man movie, but to help tell the truth for our clients, help other organizations get their voice and word out there, and so working on some nonprofits and working on some other companies, I just thought that we really could make creative matter to our clients, and that statement sort of became our mantra, and we kind of built it from there.
So
did I answer your question? I'm not sure.
Oh, totally. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So little birdie told me that in 6 years you've had, I think, 3 different offices. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you moved 3 times. Is it a growth, or is it you like to stay on the move or stay light on your feet? Like, where did that come from?
I wish I was lighter on my feet. I'm not. When we, sorry, my screen just died on me. When, like in 2003, Rule 29 went different directions, and I wasn't quite sure if I was going to keep, doing Rule 29 the way it was. And so I actually ran out of my house for a year. Then over the next 8 months, things kept really developing, and so we moved into a small office in downtown Geneva, which I love. Always loved Geneva. I always want to have an office there. And last year we actually bought and renovated an old house, and it's now our design headquarters.
So on that sort of subject of environment, like and working environment, it's being in a house now as a creative entity. It's a very sort of different environment than being, in some sort of corporate warehouse that's, flooded with awful lights and bad furniture and that sort of thing. How does that play in the role? How important that is that to you in having your group in a comfortable environment?
It's really important. I mean, I think what happened when I sort of retooled what we were doing, I looked back at the work that I really loved and thought we were most successful at. And those were primarily clients that we worked with that really respected what we did, or work that we did for organizations that were changing the human condition. And almost in all of those scenarios, we worked with other creatives. We collaborated. Right. And that sort of collaborative perspective really was something that I wanted to foster more. So when I moved out of my house into the first office, we just had an open space, and we design shared. We would trade things on and off. I experimented with the processes of how we approached our work, and it got to the point where, all of a sudden we had 8 people crammed in a small room and office, and we had to make a change. Right. And when this opportunity came up, the idea of a house where you could go off in your own little room and work on your stuff if you wanted to, but also there's little rooms throughout the house that you can meet in and really focus and collaborate together. And so this setting was really important to me. Plus, we're here most of the day. It's sad how much we actually work in our life. So you might as well love where you work and really enjoy the environment. So that was something I really wanted to build.
What was the perspective from the clients? Did they have any sort of reaction to the environment that you were coming into? Do you invite your clients in, or you go out to meet them?
Actually, the house has become, well, when we moved to Geneva, that was a great thing because our clients would actually take the day off or come for a half day. They'd meet in our conference room or quote unquote rent our conference room out, and they would have meetings there, and then they would go down the street and go to different they have a lot of great restaurants here, shopping. There's some, the Harrington Inn's here, so some of our clients would actually make a weekend out of it. And then when we moved into our house, we actually have clients who will book our conference room and hang out at our office. And so there's something there that I never expected. It's that whole relationship where we just have a deeper relationship, for lack of a better term. So that's been a great thing.
That's awesome. And that's something that, I'm, as a designer, I'm interested in, because there are so many times it's going to be a rare occurrence where you take on a design project and it's just you. It starts with you, middles with you, and it finishes with you. A lot of times in the design world, you've got to collaborate with a lot of people who are creative people and not creative people and account people, and people who are going to be dealing with the end product that you're designing. And there are so many challenges in that. There are so many different things that you have to encounter and deal with that aren't specifically design. There's this business end to it. There's a social end to it. And then the physical in your environment. And that's awesome. That's going to be really cool to be able to make that change and sort of watch that grow and find things that happen in that you didn't really expect.
Well, I never understood why at times as creatives we didn't want to work with other firms or work with other designers, because the process itself is collaborative. We work with writers, we work with photographers, and it seems like I was brought up in the system where, like you said, you kind of have your job, you don't let anyone see it, you kind of cover your test at school, you show it at the critique, and you get sort of pissed if someone wants you to change something. Right. But more times than not, we're working on a self-promotional right now, because we're turning 10 in January, so we're very excited.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we're working on a couple of big promotional projects, and each person who's worked on it at some point has been stuck. And as we've worked on things together, I'm looking at the end results thinking that there's no way either myself or some other creatives could have got to it. could have got to the solutions that they had. So, you know, you have to manage it correctly. But I think it's just the number one way I like doing work. So.
So how big is your group now? How many people do you house there?
We have, sorry, I got to count.
You can use your fingers, it's allowed.
Yeah, I totally almost did. We have 7.5. We have one employee that comes in twice a week, and then we have another designer that works remotely. We've been doing that now for almost a year, and that's been working great, actually.
Are they all creatives? Do you have account people? What's your structure there?
We have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 creatives, office manager, accounts receivable, and then, you know, I'm kind of the creative director / new business guy.
You wear a lot of hats.
Janitor, yeah.
Janitor.
Yeah.
Garbage collector.
That's right.
Sink cleaner.
Right.
Spider smusher, I'm sure.
Occasionally.
Yeah. Cool. So also, you've been in very sort of active in the design world, which is awesome to see because it sounds like we share sort of a philosophy of we got to break down these borders that separate designers and creatives and kind of bring everybody together. And in that, you've done some work with AIGA and had a lot of involvement with them. Tell us a little bit about that.
You know, when I started in Arizona, we had a small fledgling chapter, and it was cool to get into AIGA on the ground level and kind of figure out how it works. And when you're in Chicago or any big market like Frisco or New York, whatever else, and their chapters are massive,
right?
It might seem sort of hard to break into that inner circle, for lack of better terms. But it's really like anything else. The more active you are, the more you go, the more people you meet, the smaller the organization becomes.
Right.
But I really dug how the AIG actually does listen to the community and what it wants to do. Unfortunately, at times you have to get on boards or, you know, volunteer for large events to kind of get that face time. But sort of seeing behind the curtain, I was really inspired by how much they really lobby, forecast, and really try to work hard to keep our profession in the forefront of the public's eye as much as possible. And I just really dig that. Plus, you know, for us, as before social networking was around, that was our network, right? I mean, it was, so I really wanted to be involved in that. I appreciate that. I want to meet other creatives that I admired. You know, I love Kit Heinrichs from Pentagram, and through AIG Arizona, I was able to do an event, and he would speak, and I got to meet this guy that, you know, I studied in school, and you know, opportunities like that. And it's sort of geeky, you know, to meet your design heroes, but it was cool because when you sit down with someone and realize they're just like you, they're the same issues you have, you know, the same struggles, and a lot of times when you think you're sort of out on an island, you know, with a client or whatever else, it's great to hear that these people who you look up to or read about have the same exact things.
That's so on point because that's something I'm discovering every time I do a show. I'm talking to these people that I would probably never have run into prior if I had gone to an AIGA event maybe, and then it's an awkward, I'm holding a drink and kind of waiting to get into the conversation sort of thing. But now we've got this, I started to build this you know, social community where every week we can get together and meet these people and actually be face to face, and it's been a lot of fun. And you mentioned something just a second ago about you know, bringing the design world to outside of the design world and sort of educating the public on what the design world is. What's your sort of viewpoint at where we're standing right now? Because it's something I'm constantly thinking about whenever you take on like a client or something like that that hasn't really worked with a creative agency before. There's a period of education. You know, you really have to start at the beginning and say, this is what we do, and this is how we do it, and this is how this process is going to go.
So is your question more based on our individual roles or design globally, how it's looked at?
A little bit of both.
It's funny, I was telling someone the other day in the office, when I graduated from college, I still did stuff on boards. I was like the last generation before everyone switched to a Mac. And I remember my first job, I started working on my own, is I had to buy a Mac and work on the side to figure out how it worked so I could be competitive in the marketplace. And I look at that to where we are now. I mean, I would say a third of our business right now is helping our clients strategize social networking and how it should be incorporated into their brand and all that sort of thing. I didn't even, I didn't tweet 2 years ago. It's so much has changed.
Yeah.
But
and so quickly.
yeah, but in essence, if you look at everything that's going on now, some of the key factors are still important. What is the strategy? Content is still king. How does that relate to your brand? Blah, blah, blah. And I just think it's easy to get so overwhelmed with all the stuff that's going on. And one of the things that we do, just one of our processes, is we try to get our nose into everything, to learn it, to figure it out, to see if that's something we want to offer our clients. And last year was, for the first time in a long time, I was sort of dizzy of, how did social networking, for example, apply to what we're doing, and, what sort of open source solution did we want to sort of hang our hat on. So I think it's always evolving and changing, and I think it's important for us as a community to share stories, because we don't have time, all of us, to try everything that's out there. Right. So I love the concept of DesignChat and other things like this that are out there for us creatives to share pros and cons, successes, failures, that sort of thing.
It is really weird that how quickly it's becoming apparent that social media is such another integral part of what we do as designers, in seeing that as a part of communication and visual communication, because you're reading, you're seeing photos, and there's new ways of interacting. And that's one of the reasons really why DesignChat even came about, is because I found there are all these free ways to communicate, powerful ways to communicate, and the design world still seemed segmented. The borders are still up, and designers almost seem like fickle about where they kind of group together and how that happens and when it happens, and it's been a lot of fun to sort of bring everybody together once in a while, and then provide a podcast that they can download, while they're working and that sort of thing.
No, I love it.
And
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, until we had this sort of technology, you didn't do this until you went to an AIJ event or a conference.
Yeah.
And so it's just really cool that we're able to communicate this way. And I think, to answer your other part of your question about the global perspective of design, I think it's been well documented at this point, from, to, start with Target to all the other brands now that are really focusing on design.
Yeah.
Or design available for everyone, from IKEA to whatever.
Exactly.
I think it's a great time to be a designer in a lot of ways. And times it's a crappy time to be a designer because of the speed. Everyone thinks that things can be made.
Right.
We actually had a client say, well, I can put a Twitter background up in a couple minutes. Isn't that how long it takes to create a website? And so I wish we had a magic button that we could just charge a lot of money for and make it happen. But so
right.
there's pros and cons and everything. But I think no matter what anyone says, I think it's a great time to be a designer.
On that sort of subject, when somebody's asking about a logo, and don't you just have a button you could hit and I've got a logo? Like I could go get some clip art, and I'll make my logo in a couple minutes. And the way I don't remember where I first heard this, but it's a great example. It's kind of like asking for a house. You go to an architect, you ask for a house. Okay, well, define a house. What is a house? You've got a roof, you've got 4 walls, you've got a door, you can get in and out. Well, if the architect came back and gave you that as the quickest answer, would you be happy living in that house and having that represent you and who you are as a person? Probably not. So don't ask me to spend 2 hours and hand you something right away, because it's not going to serve the purpose that it needs to serve.
Right. Well, I'd love to cover the topic someday of crowdsourcing, because I think there's so many pros and cons to that. But like the whole iStock photo thing with the logo, and you can go on there and buy your own logo for whatever price.
Well, let's pause on that. Let's get into that in a second. But I totally forgot. We were just talking about content is king. Content is king. And are we still going to do the giveaway?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I forgot to mention, when you guys are asking questions, make sure the questions are good, because we're going to do a giveaway tonight. The best question Justin is going to pick at the end of the show, and whoever that person is, We're going to give away a copy
Or
of
people. We could, we could be super generous. I mean, it is the holidays.
It is the holidays, so how about top 3?
Love it.
Okay, a copy of the documentary.
They can have a copy of the documentary, or we could send a link to some of the custom-made hats we have, some of the Design Monkey stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'd love to give that away.
Okay, so top 3 questions at the end of the chat are going to get a copy of the DVD and the link to the swag. So make those questions good. Really think about your questions, because Justin is going to be judging you. Santa's watching. Santa's paying attention. Content is king. Okay, crowdsourcing. That's a great subject, and definitely brings up a lot of passion in the people that we talk to on DesignChat. And recently, we had Evan Fry came on, and Evan Fry was with Crispin Porter and Boguski, and left to start some of his own ventures. Started BFAProductions.com, and also started a new agency based on the crowdsourcing model called Victors and Spoils. You can check out their stuff at victorsandspoils.com. And so they think it is their philosophy that crowdsourcing is a viable business option for creative content. Are you familiar with this group at all?
Yeah, it's, I think, in Colorado or...
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry about it.
It sounds, when I talked to him, it was the night before they announced that Victors and Spoils was going to be an agency based on crowdsourcing. And that week, they were still sort of fuzzy on the actual numbers, of how that's going to work, how many people they're going to employ, how many people are going to be crowdsourcing and providing content. And they weren't totally sure, but they totally believed that at that time that this is something that's a viable business solution. Do you think that an agency can survive on that model?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out. I think that I really dig. I'm all about trying new things business-wise, and any way to give different creatives an opportunity, to just have a chance to learn and grow and try out different creative outlets. That's great, as long as they're compensated for what they do.
Right.
And that's the big issue that I have with it. I honestly don't think. I know a lot of people freak out and think it hurts our industry, and in some ways it probably does. But at the same time, I think that it also weeds out a lot of the clients that we don't want to work with.
Right.
It does. And I don't know. I jump back and forth on because I love threadless. I think the threadless model works. I dig it, and you could say, well, that's just T-shirt design. Well, there's T-shirt companies out there that wish threadless didn't exist. So it's just a different perspective. So I think that it is something we should look at and figure it out. I think that as we're able to, with technology, work from all around the world, if we could think of some way to make that viable and the quality's there, it's here. So now we kind of have to deal with it and figure out, what it means and best practices and how to do it.
Have you had any experiences doing a crowdsource project, and how did that go?
We've only done stuff with our blog and kind of just having little contests. Like every year we have a hand turkey contest, and we just
love the hand turkey contest.
Oh, thanks. And partly we started that because we were experimenting with the whole concept. We also were a part of a company that didn't make it called hathead.com, and that was basically the threadless for hats.
Okay.
And it was a great concept and everything else, but they just couldn't get the manufacturing quite worked out. I think Hathead's still online. You can get hats from there. But I just think it's a really great idea. My concern has always been, how do you monetize it fairly?
Sure.
So I guess I sort of answered your question. We've tried it. We've done it. Nothing for a paid client project.
So we've gone into the AGA, we've gone in the studio. I'm kind of looking down a little list here of things to sort of cover off on. Let's talk about the documentary. For anybody who says, they have no idea what documentary we're talking about, start telling the story.
Oh, you caught me right in the middle of me typing something.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead and finish. There you go, hathead.com. And also, I forgot to mention, we've got the...
We did not design the site, just so you know. We designed a lot of the hats.
Disclaimer.
We designed a lot of the hats.
The account in here, DesignChat Links, is a Twitter account that we keep, that we run during the chat. As we're talking about things, we throw up the URL so you guys can go see it. And then that also lives on Twitter, so if after the discussion, like you're telling somebody about something tomorrow, go to twitter.com/designchatlinks, and we keep all the links that we're talking about bookmarked there.
Cool. So I'm sorry, what was your question?
About the documentary. Why don't you go into the story about the documentary for people who are not familiar with it?
Sure. Well, I'm part of Rule 29's mission is to make creative matter in our community. And for a lot of reasons, I kept feeling like I wanted to do something in Africa. And I was really irritated about that because I wanted it to be local. You know, it's more convenient. I can have the whole team involved. And so this Africa thing kept coming up. You know, I'd meet someone that went there, or I'd read a story about it. But, you know, I didn't want to give to the one. I mean, I support one, but I didn't want to give to an organization that I couldn't see the fruits of, you know, our labor.
Sure.
And through a chain of events, I ended up meeting a gentleman who told me about an organization called Life in Abundance. And what they do is they go to 7 countries in sub-Saharan Africa, main ones being the Sudan, Kenya, and Ethiopia. And they work only in the slums. And after meeting him later on, the guy who started heading the whole organization was actually one of my best friend's sons. And so we're talking one day, and I was like, yeah, you know, I feel like I really want to do something in Africa, but, you know, I just don't really know, you know, what I would do or how that would work or whatever else. And so kind of told him what was on my heart, and he told me what they're all about. And he had said, I know you do pro bono work every year. Would you consider, you know, doing that for Life in Abundance? And I said, yeah, I'd love to. And they're like, great. So you can only do it if you go to Africa. And so I was like, hold on, let me get this straight. You want me to do work for you for free, but yet I have to fly myself to Africa. And it was the greatest sales pitch in the world because I was all about it.
Right.
And so 2 years ago, we took our first trip, and just seeing the work there and the need was, you know, life-changing and overwhelming. And I remember on my flight back, I'm like, why can't this be a Rule 29 project? You know, why can't we do something? I mean, there was one point, Kibera slum is in Kenya, in Nairobi, Kenya. It's the second largest slum in all of Africa. And here I am, this big white dude, right, in the middle of Africa. And I'm like, what can I possibly do here, you know, to make a difference? And, you know, coming home, I told them we're totally in. We'll do whatever, you know, we need to do. So we sat down with them and we went through their strategy. We came up with a whole new communication plan, branding, all that sort of thing. And from the time we started with them till now, we've helped them raise, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars, which has been great to go back into these programs. So anyways, fast forward to this year, and one of the things that we wanted to do is we wanted to bring Africa home, or to the States, because not everyone can pick up and leave for 10 days or 2 weeks and go to, you know, Africa. So we went out to Ethiopia and shot a documentary, our first documentary, with McDonald Photography out of Glen Ellen. Great photographer and, soon to be filmmaker. Nice. It's one of the things that he's offering now as well. Anyways, so we went out there and shot a story about 3 children that live in the slums and the experience they go through and the hope that can actually happen. The cool thing about Life in Abundance, not to get on a soapbox, but what I love about them is they create a sustainable model, meaning they go there, they train the locals how to take care of themselves and their community. Right. And after 3 or so years, they leave there with the ability to you know, make a difference in their community's lives and their community and everyone's lives. And it's just really fantastic. So
where was the transition? Where did the transition happen about going to film and making the decision that, well, we won't be able to do this in our traditional methods? So because this is the first time you worked in film, correct?
Right.
So where did that sort of come from and the inspiration for that? Like it's only going to work if we do it in film.
Well, we did a coffee table book of the pictures that we took while we were there, and which is great. I love books. We have a whole side business of just making high-end, beautiful coffee table books. Did I lose you?
Say again? No, I'm still here.
Okay, and that was awesome, but it just didn't have the same impact as film. And film is one of the things that always inspired me. I always wanted to be a part of it. You know, I always wanted to be an actor, and I'm not really good at it. And I love beautiful, you know, images and that sort of thing. So I sat down with the CEO of LA and I said, hey, listen, we have an opportunity here to make something that really could give more education. Because as people looked at the book, they were really touched by the images, but they really couldn't get more textures and layers that, you know, going there or a film can bring to it. So
right.
We said, hey, we think we can make this mini documentary and just educate people more on what goes on there. That's how we went about it.
And that's a subject that I like to talk about a lot here on Design Chat is, you know, not letting, sometimes, you know, if you're a designer, you get involved in doing just print design or web design. Some people will tell you that, well, now that's your specialty and that's the only way you're going to be able to get a job. And that's what you should do and that's what you should focus on. But my belief is the opposite of that, is that, you know, if you have the sort of mindset of creation in general, and you have that skill set, there are ways that you can transfer that to other types of work. And then if you're able to make a successful web design, you can translate that into, you know, a film or, you know, many other types of avenues. And that you shouldn't let people sort of put you in that spot where like you can only do that one sort of thing. Right. And the only way you're going to figure that out is if you go out there and just try it. An example of that is what we're doing here. I'm a designer. I was formerly trained as a designer. I graduated with a degree in visual communications, and I've never broadcasted anything. I've never been on TV. I've never produced anything. This is just something that sort of just happened, and it's obviously working because it's taking off and people are showing up every week for shows, you know. So if you've got an interest in another sort of creative area, my advice is just go out there and start doing it. Find, you know, spend whatever money you need to spend on some used equipment and just go for it.
Well, you said it perfectly. I couldn't agree more. I mean, one of the ways that Roll 20 has grown is we've tried different things. And I think, you know, we started shooting videos for a lot of our social networking work.
Yeah.
And it was just something we had to do. We had so many opportunities. People kept asking us if we did that, and we're like, no, we don't. We wanted to get into After Effects and some motion graphics, and so, you know, we took some of our smaller jobs on, and I really started to dig it. And I thought it's another challenge for our team to be a part of it. You know, and I'm always concerned about doing too much. You know, we can't be great at everything, and we don't offer every service. But we want at least to have enough experience with it that we can art direct it or find the kind of work that we want to do. So, you know, I think you have to try everything. And you know,
what other types of projects have you guys done there that are sort of outside of your realm of print, web, or film, or something like that? The hand project.
What's that? Sorry?
The hand project.
You know, I mean, we do a lot of our blogging and stuff is for, you know, try different things, start different conversations. You know, one day we're sitting there having lunch and everyone was talking about different things in their life, and I was like, we should write about this. This is interesting. At least it's interesting to me. And so we just started writing a blog really to ourselves, and it's kind of grown. And everyone can write about whatever they, you know, just feel like. And what's been great about that is it's got us into, you know, researching different types of, you know, ideas or processes. You know, we're tinkering with a book project, you know, of our own. And we're just trying a lot of different things. But I mean, film and motion graphics and a lot of the social networking stuff is probably the biggest area of new development that we're working on.
I've also heard that your group sort of sets aside a piece of time every day to dedicate to social networking and to be involved in that. Is that something you guys still do?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it really depends. It's usually me But everyone is responsible throughout the week at some time to do some stuff on our various, you know, communities that we're on, but whether it be
Right.
Twitter or Facebook or a blog. So it's probably still every day, but not everyone. It's probably one or two people a day work on something. And you know, it's cool. Now it used to be sort of a burden. Now it's just part of our daily routine, you know. And usually when we're really stressed about a deadline, someone will find a hilarious, you know, link that someone tweeted, and we'll have a good laugh and then keep on going. So it's actually been a great addition to, you know, to our day.
Awesome. I totally agree. I mean, it's with all the resources we have out there, I think we're doing ourselves a disservice if we're not reaching out and meeting new people and talking and sharing and that sort of thing. And I hope that trend continues, definitely in design and other industries and that sort of thing. And also, you know what? Also with clients, I'm always interested in being able to reach people in a broad range. And like we've had people on this show from Canada, you know, from Brazil, like many different countries. I mean, there's a guy who follows from China and actually wants to set up a design chat in Asia and that sort of thing. And that's one of the trends I want to see sort of change in client relationships is, you know, to not be scared of communicating digitally, because now we can do it sort of face to face and show images and share things. And it's one of those things like if you were on the West Coast in San Francisco, I wouldn't know anything different. I mean, the truth of the reality is like you're just miles away, really. I mean, I could hop in a car and be hanging out with you in like half an hour or something like that, right? We don't have enough time. We won't do that tonight. Maybe another show.
By the way, you should, because we have a beer fridge.
Wait, well, you shouldn't have told me that because yeah. But yeah, it's something I'm not really seeing too much in client work. I know a lot of people are doing it. I have a friend who, in fact, is working, like he started working for an agency on the East Coast and decided he needed to move back home to be closer to family, but he still works for the agency on the East Coast. He has a meeting every Monday morning, a visual sort of chat, goes over the projects he needs to do that week, and then he goes about his business and that sort of thing. Are all of your clients local, or do you deal with anybody who's sort of far off? I mean, other than Africa, of course, which is another story.
Right. No, it's probably a pretty good mix. I mean, we have clients, some of our biggest clients are out of state.
Yeah.
We probably, if we had 50 active clients, I would say 25 of them are out of state. And I love that actually in a lot of ways, because most of those relationships are people who have found us or we've met through a recommendation. They really, you know, love our work and respect what we do. So it's just, you know, it's one of those things we don't have to be face to face. At the same time, there's something about meeting with someone, you know, across the table and talking to them about, you know, what they want to do that still is, you know, probably the most powerful. But
so what I think we're going to do here is we're going to go a little early into the Q&A. We're going to give it 20 minutes instead of 15 because we've got to have a ton of questions. We're giving away the DVD of the documentary, and also we're giving, what was it again, a link to some of the
yeah, they can
hats?
they can
pick out a hat?
Yeah, I'll see them, or they can pick out a hat from Hathead that
awesome.
we designed, and we'll send it.
Sweet.
Yeah, this is the DVD. It just came out. We just got the print.
So, let's see it. Awesome.
All embossed.
This is my home.
It's magic.
Very cool. That's got to be cool to like actually have a physical object out of all that. To, you know, it's a tangible thing that you guys produced.
Yeah, I opened up the box today, and I was.
You just got that today?
Yeah, I was pretty jacked.
Oh, that's perfect timing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so first question tonight comes from Garific. He asks, ask Justin the story behind the Design Monkey. So tell me the story about the Design Monkey, and I will listen.
Yeah, ooh, you're very attentive. We had an opportunity to go up to one of Appleton Paper's mills and get a tour of the mill, and they said, hey, do you want to print a poster when you're up there? And we're like, well, yeah, that'd be fantastic. So we had a little internal design competition where everyone could sort of design their own poster, come up with their own idea. And one of the phrases I used to use a lot was, design monkey. Just that we're sometimes people just look at us as design monkeys, and
Right.
we're design monkeys because we sort of geek out on things that are beautiful and critique menus and whatever. And so Carrie, our senior designer, came up with this great little illustration, and then we started all kind of coming up with different things the design monkey liked. The design monkey's favorite colors are numbered, for like canvas colors, and so
Yeah.
we came up with 29 things that the design monkey liked. Then we made a poster around it and went up and printed it, and that was a lot of fun. And so all of a sudden they sent us, like 500 posters. I'm like, what are we gonna do with these things? And then right around then we finished the Head site, and they loved what we had done for them originally, and they gave us a hat as a free thank you. So we designed a hat, and we just happened to design the Design Monkey hat that also won the design competition in-house. And all of a sudden we had this cool promotion, and we just sent it out to a bunch of clients, some of our design friends, just because we had all of them.
Right.
And it ended up being one of our best promotions. It just kind of happened that way. So
Kind of took on its own life.
Yeah. So it's really, he's coming back in 2010 for our anniversary.
I was just going to ask, what's your current iteration of Design Monkey?
Yeah. No, he's coming back. You have to stay tuned.
Radness. Let us know, definitely, for sure. Our second question comes tonight from Michelle Pruitt. She asks, what would you suggest to achieve better collaboration in a work environment that is very isolated?
Well, I mean, depending on what position you hold, I mean, if you're the design manager, then I would recommend trying to promote some critiques, where you get together and try to critique each other's work, or if it's not each other's work, if it's too sensitive a situation, maybe you bring in a really cool design piece, a book, a site, something, and maybe over lunch you invite your coworkers to talk about it. I think part of it is just starting conversation about great design, and trying to find a common thread between all of you, and then try to slowly move that into projects. Like maybe the fourth or fifth meeting you bring in something you design, and you're like, hey, what do you guys think about this? And you start talking about it. You sort of have to be someone has to be the catalyst to, that conversation. And you have to be really open. I mean, a lot of times someone will start collaborating and someone will be like, that font blows. And then all of a sudden, you're shut down and you don't want to talk anymore about it. But, you just got to keep the conversation going and find ways.
Do you guys have a specific method or a specific sort of set of rules or something for a critique?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of the mediator. If someone gets too harsh, and we're really not. I mean, we collaborate so much that sometimes.
Have you ever broken up a fight?
No, actually, the only one that's really got pissed has been me, and it's usually when they're critiquing my stuff.
Yeah.
No, it's just being really open to it,
Yeah.
and working through it. But no, it hasn't gotten so. I mean, people have gotten hurt and that sort of thing. But it's in the end, it's really not about, as much as we'd like to think, it's really not about our feelings. It's about what we're doing for our clients. And if you do something that's bad, or I know is strategically off base, then I care about your feelings, but I don't care at the same time. You know what I mean? I want you to do a great piece. So my job is to help you make that piece as fantastic as possible.
Right. Third question is from Daniel Catino. Do you try to orient your design ideas towards some kind of goal or specific visual?
Everything we start is we the designers have to be able to come back to me and tell me what the strategy is. What is the goal of the piece? And part of that strategy is understanding who the client is, who that person is, what they're like, what they wear, where they go shopping, whatever the parameters are. So we then can craft sort of the sandbox that we get to play in for the design. And then from there, designers can inject some more style to it. I'm not trying to minimize our process, but really, I mean, that's kind of the steps. And then we go into sketch stage and all that sort of thing. And then
You guys keep a creative brief?
We do, yeah. Not as much as I'd like to say that we do, but yeah, we do, yeah. And really, we go through stages where we have critiques, and part of their responsibility is to be able to present to everyone in the group what this is about and, how that solved that particular issue.
A creative brief, for anybody who hasn't used one or isn't familiar with it, it's a very valuable tool that you can use as a designer at the beginning of a project to outline the scale of the project, the intention, the goals, and then sort of follow that as you go along to different stages. Because if you've ever been in a situation with a client where halfway into the project they completely change what the goal of the project is, it can be very frustrating and add a lot of time onto the length of your project. So having a creative brief is always a good idea, because you can, if they try to change the role on you, you can go back and refer to the brief and say, well, on this date, well, this is where you were wanting to go, so maybe we should sort of reconsider where we're going. And it kind of keeps everybody in check. It's not only for the clients, it's for you, because if you start to create something that isn't related to what they wanted to do, it'll keep you in check also. So if you run into that problem, a creative brief is always a good way to solve that.
Yeah, and I guess to add to that, there's two sides of that creative brief, right? I mean, you have the client side, and you really have to understand that before you go into it.
Yep.
But it's also when you go back to your client and you present to them, ideally against that brief, saying, here are the things that we're doing that support these parameters. So
Exactly.
right away if you're off, and you can have that ugly conversation right from the get-go.
Right.
But like you said, more importantly, I think that's one of the big ways design firms aren't profitable, is they don't understand the client's desires going into it.
Yeah, the research up front is so important, getting involved in these projects, because the last thing you want to do is spin your wheels and spend all the time and money and still want to charge a client, and then find out that what you were doing has absolutely nothing to do with what your client wanted to do. It's very frustrating and bad for everybody, because especially if you're hiring other people, I mean, you're going to bring them down with you. So I'm sorry, I had to digress. I had to explain that. So okay, fourth question from Bryce Fabule. If I'm butchering that, I'm so sorry. From Bryce, do you feel like knowing/offering all tools, social media, SEO, print, web, etc., can hinder the product or performance of a company?
I think it can hinder it if you sell yourself as an expert in all those things. We don't say that. We say that we understand strategy and we can help you come with creative solutions. But we're not always the ones doing the creative or the coding or the actual delivery. Sometimes we're managing that process as part of our client relation. But I definitely think you have to know what you're strong at and really focus on that. At the same time, don't be scared and limit yourself, because then you're going to be out of business.
Awesome. Great advice. Great advice. Fifth question from Jen Halver. What drew you to the documentary project? So we know Jen. Hi, Jen.
Hey, Jen.
She wants to know what drew you to the documentary project in Ethiopia in the first place.
Well, after the first trip there, and just walking into, I mean, it's like this, I'm sure it's similar to the slums in India or China or Central America, but, I have 4 kids, and I remember one moment in the slums turning around and looking at this little girl that she was, just walking in sewage and everything else. She, like right here, she looked just like my youngest. And I thought to myself, how different my world is from this. And I thought, what can I do to help communicate what goes on over here? What is it that I have from an asset standpoint that I can? And when we were given the opportunity to try to tell a story, we picked Ethiopia primarily because that's where the Life in Abundance programs have been started, and where you see the most traction of their process. And so that's why we went back to that particular area. And there's so much need. There's so many kids, and there's 50,000 street kids right now in the particular slum that we're in, some of which have never had a home. Most
Was
of
it,
which have never had a home.
you were saying, sitting at home before you even got into this project, that, wow, where do I even start with wanting to do something in Africa? and it's sort of like an overwhelming feeling of this project is so big, how can I help? Did you still have that sort of overwhelming feeling when you were there, seeing all the problems firsthand?
Yeah, because it's like, what can we, I mean, it's, you know, I'm not going to change it myself. And a lot of the help that we're giving, we have this idea in America, right, that, you know, I give something money or I do something here or there and it's going to change. And everyone's going to live like I live. You know, I don't know, we have that, that's my opinion, we have that perception. But even the work that we've done in Africa where, you know, we're helping people be fed and educated and get their HIV medication and all that sort of thing, they're still poor. They're always going to be poor, but we're helping them have a little bit more dignity in their life. And after you see that, it becomes less overwhelming. It's still very overwhelming, trust me. But it becomes something where, you know, it's funny, I came back home after my last trip and we did a project for a client that was, I don't know, it was less than exciting. And I just thought to myself, this is still meaningless in some ways to do this kind of work when the work that we're doing for this organization is actually helping save lives, and which is a weird thing to think about. You can actually do design that will help change people's lives. Cool. But then at the same time, that kind of work is what helps us do this stuff. So, you know, it's a give and take.
Totally. We've got tons of questions. We're going to keep on going, and I sort of need to pick up the pace a little bit. Russell Searle wants to know, what's your view of Artisteer and its place in the design production process? Sorry, I'm not familiar with Artisteer.
I'm not sure I'm familiar with Artisteer either.
Moving on. He also asked, Russell asked, what are your most productive prototyping / wireframing methods?
For us, it really still comes down to where we will we'll sit down and literally start sketching out a wireframe, you know, and we'll go through several iterations of that. You know, we'll talk through it. We'll put Post-its on it. We'll move stuff around.
So pen and paper you go to right away. You're not on a computer.
No.
Yeah.
We just kind of work through it, and we kind of talk it out, and then we actually have created our own custom little wireframing process in Illustrator. And then we go through that, and then we kind of take it to the group, or they'll just show it to me, and we'll kind of walk through it. Then we'll walk through it with our coding partner, and we'll kind of work on it from there.
Awesome. Garific wants to know, Justin, what's a common mistake that clients make before coming to Rule 29?
They think that the meaning of Rule 29 is going to be some magical formula, and they're always disappointed when I tell them it's making creative matter. Which is, we made a book about this because the first couple of years I'd go in and people are like, what's Rule 29 mean? And I give them my answer and they're like, oh. I don't get it. So we made a book about it and we give it to all of our clients at our first meeting. So.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Sort of introduction, a quick speed up the get to know you process.
And we have one client who, you know, we do these goofy little videos for our own viewing pleasure. And a lot of our clients think that we're going to be able to do that sort of work for them. We'd love to, but it never gets approved.
Always, right. It's got too many changes to actually publish it. Bryce Fable asks, has Rule 29 ever had to fire or release a client, and why?
We have. There's one thing that, you know, we didn't talk about today, and maybe someday I'll be on again, but one of the things that we've really been looking at the last year is culture.
Yeah.
And the Rule 29 culture and then our clients' culture. And when you look back at the job that you probably been most successful at or really enjoyed, it's when your cultures are really meshed. And when that happens, not to sound cheesy, but that's really when the design mojo starts, in my opinion. And so we've had a couple clients, we have a couple now that we just do not mesh at all. And I'm trying to figure out how to amicably...
You name them on air?
No way.
Air your dirty laundry?
No way. I love it. If you have me back, I'll tell you after they fire us or we fire them. I don't know.
Right.
No, so it's one of those things where, you know, we struggle with, and the hard thing is it drains a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And I too often wait too long. But the last one that we fired actually felt so good afterwards. It just, I mean, it was scary because they were a big client. They paid us a lot of money.
Yeah.
And, as a design owner, one of the things that I hate is, I mean, I'm a designer, so I get it, right? I know I want to spend extra time. I want to make the work that I work on fantastic. But there's a limit at times, deadline, budget, whatever else. The number one thing I hate the most is when I have to pull the plug on a project. And
is it like breaking up with someone? Like they get all mad? Like, what is it me? Like, well, you don't like me, I don't like you then.
Yeah, and pretty much. I try to go to the client and get more time, but anyway, so I sat down with the client and said, hey, listen, it just doesn't seem like this is really working. Here's what the issues are. This just happened last year.
Yeah.
And I said, but here's a recommendation I have of someone who I think culturally would fit with you. Fantastic, they're great, blah, blah, blah. So I brought a design solution to them. And this firm and this client are still working together. I'm like two peas in a pod.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, because culture is totally important. And if you don't vibe, you don't vibe. Then you got to move on. Okay, so next question from Mark Wills asks, when it comes to social reasonability, what have you done with your local community? What have you done with your local community? Or is Geneva too perfect already?
Oh, yeah, I saw that question by Mark. Mark, that's a great question. So I'm going to answer your question in two ways. The first is I think designers, we should be involved in our local community. Absolutely. Like I said earlier, Africa was something that just kind of happened and has become sort of a passion. But we work with several local organizations here in Geneva, one of them being one of the local churches here where we do a lot of their communication and outreach and that sort of thing. We also are doing community projects where we have one person at the firm who's in charge of picking something locally to be a part of. And so we're going to go do a service project that has nothing to do with design. We're just going to go and serve people. We have one coming up in St. Charles, and then we have a couple of them coming up throughout the year. So we try to do that once a quarter. So now doing stuff in our local community is very important. We've done something as large as we've done for Life in Abundance in Geneva. No, but there's need here, but the need obviously was greater in this other scenario than it was.
Michelle Cruitt asks, can you talk about Rule 29's design for Lead Like Jesus? It went through that book for work. I just went through that book for work,
Sure.
So I'm curious how it was like working on that.
Well, Ken Blanchard, who wrote the 1 Minute Manager, it's one of the best business books of all time, I think. He is one of the founders of that organization, and he just had a philosophy that if we were to learn from Jesus on how to lead people, there are some great lessons we can learn from him. And I thought that was really intriguing concept. And so they came to us and wanted to rebrand their organization and their product. And so we worked on their products. We did a little of their web work. They've sort of killed that. That's a classic example of giving someone a CMS and letting them go. The site is very different than when we launched it a year and a half ago. But yeah, it was a great project. Very, very cool people in that organization. And it's just a very interesting concept, I think, is to learn from, what Jesus' leadership skills were.
Bryce is asking a lot of questions. Awesome. If a current client asks something of Rule 29 that is not a specialty, do you lower your rate and try it, or eat the cost of the guinea pig project?
Great question. We never lower our price on purpose. We go in and we quote it out at a price that we think is fair to the market value of what we're doing. And when we go into, we're committed to making it work no matter what, whether we have to shell out cash, to finish it up, whatever else. And if we don't know how to do it, we don't lie about it. We just like, hey, we've never done this before, but we can totally nail it. We understand the concept. And we'll find someone to help us do it. And that's really how we go about doing it. There's so many people out there that you can collaborate with. I mean, we love when someone comes to us with something we've never tried and we've always wanted to, because then that gives us an opportunity to learn about it.
We've only got, let's do 4 more questions, 3 or 4 more questions, and then we'll wrap it up and we'll do the giveaway thing. This one's from Mark and Drew Willits. This is more of a statement, but Justin, you call yourself the designer, businessman, leader. I think the role you're doing is awesome as an educator. So more of a comment than a question. Okay.
Thanks, Mark.
Great, Mark.
He gets a hat just because.
There you go. Mark gets a hat. Gurific wants to know, does Justin have a pet peeve about the current advertising?
Just advertising in general, huh?
Sounds like it. Or a commercial you just hate.
I love TV, so I dig everything. You know, I hate the local, cheesy local commercials.
Well, sometimes that's good.
But at the same time, I love them. They're so bad, I love them. Yeah. No, there's nothing that jumps out at me. The bad advertising I just sort of forget about.
Yeah.
I usually remember, just the ones that kind of make me giggle.
You know what's got me?
Really lame answer.
I can't get out of my head is Cars for Kids has a radio commercial. And where it's a dude and a kid singing 1877 Cars for Kids, and I can, like, in the first strum of the guitar, I can feel this thing coming on, and I hate it, but I can't get it out of my friggin' head, and it's got to be one of the best earwigs I've ever heard, and it's one of those things, like, my brother actually used it. He had to get rid of a car. He called up the foundation, and they came and took his car. Just the little jingle they have is just horribly, like, homemade, self-produced, just junk, but it's successful.
Yeah. No, I don't have one like that right now. I mean, to be really cheesy, I love the my daughter laughs at me, by the way, because I'll cry at a good commercial. I'm such a sissy. But there's that one commercial right now with the Hershey Kisses that play the bells or whatever else, and the one at the end bows, and you don't know what I'm talking about.
I haven't seen it. No, I haven't seen it.
Anyways, it's been around for like 10 years. Every year it's on, I'm like, that's a brilliant commercial. It still works.
Oh my goodness, it's 10 years old, really?
Yeah, I'm guessing.
Well,
It's 100 years old. It was before TV, and it's still fantastic.
It's actually a woodcut commercial. It's amazing.
It's brilliant. Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. From Shampton Alive, Africa versus Geneva. Who wins? In what competition are we talking about here?
No.
In arm wrestling?
Sean, that's a brutal question.
That's a brutal question, Sean.
Easy to me. It's Africa. You go to where there's the most need.
Okay, so all right, so let's go back. We're out of time, but we need to choose some questions here. 3 top questions, and Mark gets a hat. So let's. Do you remember off the top of your head? You want me to run through the questions really quick?
Oh man, you should. I didn't know I was keeping track.
Okay.
Well, Mark's in because he has some great questions.
So Mark's got one.
Yeah.
And then we'll do 2 more. How's the best way to do this? Maybe I should just run through them really. Bryce, I think Bryce asked some really good ones.
Guinea pig project question.
The guinea pig project. I think that was a great one.
That's a good one.
And then let's see. Do we have another recommendation? Because I have them in a document here. I'm kind of reading through that we're sharing here.
Oh, there's a great question I want to answer. Can I just answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I rebel?
Yeah.
Where was it? Collins just asked, or Daniel asked something about how do you manage group projects? Where did it go? I lost it.
It's okay.
How's that for killing your interview? Just dead air. Oh, there it is, Jen Howard. Is every project a Rule 29 group project? If so, how do you manage the budget? No, not every project is a group project, but every project is set up to where people can share it. Meaning, let's say you're working on something and you're just absolutely stuck and you need to get away from it, but we're super busy. you're able to go around and kind of shuffle the work around if it makes sense. Or we can adjust people's schedules. I mean, we have a design manager. It's just, her main job is to make sure that we have the opportunity to be the most successful creatively. And so we shuffle work around that way. And we also we track our time just to kind of get an idea of where we're at. But at the same time, if there's a due date on Thursday and it's Monday, as long as it's done by Thursday, I'm not really worried about it.
Cool. So we've got Mark, we've got Bryce, and then I think Daniel Catino also had some good ones in there too. So I think we've got our three.
How about we give all the Dan something?
Daniel Collins, sorry.
Yeah.
And two Daniels then.
There we go.
So, all right, how about this? Anybody who we just named, go ahead and send me a message on Twitter. I'm at Hoopajoob, Hupajob. It'll show up in the chat room just real quick. And I will give me your information, and I will give that to Justin, and then we'll send your prizes out.
Yeah, don't give anything to Jen. She has to come to my office and pick it up herself.
Okay, Jen doesn't get anything.
Yeah, bring your babies too. She's adopted a couple of kids. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Fantastic! Congratulations, Jen.
No, but just tell her, Jay. We're just having a conversation. I'm going to take your show over. Jay can't come, Jen. Yeah.
This is a social thing, man.
Yeah.
So just a couple thank yous I got to do every week. Thank you to Mashable for letting us broadcast here. That's amazing. They're actually having like a holiday party right now, so they're not listening, but they can listen on the podcast. So also thank you to Samana Mason. Check them out. Very cool. They're on Twitter for letting us broadcast from their design agency in West Dundee. And of course, thank you to Justin Ahrens for coming on tonight. You were awesome.
I loved it, man. Anytime. Hey, you guys are welcome. You guys are welcome to broadcast from our office if you ever need a place.
Sweet. We'll have to do it. We'll have to come over and hang out. You said you got a beer fridge, so I was going to come anyway, really, even without the invitation. So a couple notes. We're off for 2 weeks. We're not going to have any live shows for 2 weeks. Justin's show is going to release on iTunes and Mevio a week from Friday during the week of the new year. And then, so follow us on Twitter at DesignChat to hear any announcements and when we release these shows, or go to iTunes and subscribe to the podcast, and then they'll just automatically download for you. So the next live show is going to be the first week of January. Let me bring it up. We're supposed to have, and it might be a little tentative right now because some scheduling is getting a little screwy. But tentatively, we have scheduled, where did it go? Oh my goodness, I've lost it. There it is. Dave Lyon, he's a director of design there at General Motors, interior design. Very cool stuff. He's very knowledgeable about the Chevy Volt project, so that's going to be very cool to hear about when we get him on, hopefully the first week of January. So until that time, thank you everybody for coming. Thank you, Justin. And we'll be talking to you soon, man.
All right, man.
Have a good night.
See ya.
Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.